all over the space. There are methods available now since we have both satellite data and we have fairly good geocoded data across the country, the census data is available, to do a mix of bottom-up and top-down. So you can literally go down, Gujarat has done this, so it's very excellent work by Tarun has shown how you can do it at village level or even within a city like Shimla. So it's a question of investment and time. To do something at the level of the state, and I think there are other colleagues here, academics and people who've done this, my own gut feel is somewhere between, depending on size of state, somewhere between 5 to 15 crores is what it will take to do this. It may take 2 to 3 years depending on the scope of what you want to do. For example, drought is a very critical risk for many parts of the country. Getting a hold of 100-year drought data for multiple stations is a big challenge to be able to put together. Just pulling together that database is quite important. So it's a question of scope, but typically it can be done. 2 states have shown it very clearly. You can drill up and drill down. That's not an issue. It's been done extensively across the world. The global atlas will be released next month. There are questions of security. In fact, I have not shown you some other lists that have been assessed here, which are critical. So that is a matter of some concern. There are a whole range of things that are not here. So that's one thing that one has to take into account from the security point of view. However, there are some critical risks that people are taking care of themselves. Earthquakes, flooding, drought, for example, which should be publicly available data which are there. We can actually push some of this information literally down onto people's cell phones in some senses. So that going up and down and crowdsourcing of that information, tracking it is very important. And the question of what is the difference that things have made, we actually do not, as far as I know, have proper scientific evidence of the exact impact of any of these measures. Why? Because we do not do systematic longitudinal studies which tell you what happened 5 years, 10 years, 15 years after a disaster. There are individual pieces of work that need to be done. Today, with crowdsourcing, we can start doing that quite effectively. There are many examples in the country of doing this at micro level. And that's the way forward, to use mixed methods to try and use this kind of process. It's relatively cheap, it doesn't cost very much money, and it also gets you the response of communities to be able to address these questions, exactly what Anant was talking about. So it's affordable, can be done, has been done for 20 or 30 years in other parts of the world. Mexico, Colombia, a whole range of Latin American countries have been putting together risk data for 20 years just now from the settlement of village level upwards as part of a framework that is built into the legal process. The challenge, of course, like we said just now, is not only a challenge of siloing. If you want to reduce risk systematically in our country, it's critically about 2 things: reducing vulnerability and secondly, reducing exposure. That means coordination across multiple departments, and that is a challenge. The management of risk has to stay at the highest level within government and has to have enough political voice to be able to make that thing possible. Otherwise, connecting buildings, PHED, water, a whole range of other functions becomes impossible. And if you don't bring them together, the weakest link in the chain will determine what the vulnerability will be like. So that is, I think, the operational challenge that we have. The legal and regulatory frame, the governance framework, and coordination. And setting up that process, it happens year after year, but many states in the country have done this very, very effectively. The final answer to the question of has we made an impact, I think at least on some counts, both on cyclones, storm surge, and to some extent earthquakes, the loss of life reduction that we've seen in this country after an event has been quite significant. I helped assess the super cyclone in Orissa in 1999. We know what's happened after that. On the output side, I think we don't actually have good answers. It will be very good for multiple states to actually do this, set up the systems. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of crores. It's not a small thing we're talking about here in terms of risk.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Anant, you would like to respond? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. And just quickly about 3-4 things that were really directed at me. One, where did we get this data? This is from the Taru presentation that was made there, so probably you'll get it very explicitly. They mentioned that. And secondly, what happens to these buildings? Actually, I'm not even very comfortable with the matrix that was drawn when we assessed the vulnerability of the buildings. For the simple reason, that is why I gave this example of the High Court. Because High Court poses itself to be the best building in the city, but I know if a disaster takes place, it is 14 stories. It will not sustain it all. But, I mean, with that, but I would like to end. So I think on the mountains, without having that master plan, without having that zonation, without having the geological kind of survey done, and without having the strata of the rock, because unlike plains, on the mountains, the southeast would be the best rock to hold the building, and the northwest would be extremely vulnerable. So that is how I think we have to understand. Probably more scientific analysis and data is required for that. And as far as a question that was directly posed to me, I mean, as the municipality or as a city government, what we have been able to do as a policy, don't forget, always remember what your mayors are for. Cut the ribbon, kiss the child, nothing beyond that. Nevertheless, but nevertheless, I think there are three things which I would always feel happy about. One is about the policy initiative that we have done within the budget. Very few municipalities, generally municipalities are starved with funds, but Shimla happens to be a revenue surplus municipality, probably I mean, the only one in North India. And we have a separate budget for capacity building in climate change and all that stuff. And second thing about which I'll be writing a paper soon is how we were able to manage water in the city. The water that was, like in Delhi, was water and sewerage with two different parastatals was being run. Then we had this epidemic of hepatitis. Then through this mainstreaming, we formed a complete single utility called the Greater Shimla Water Circle. And now we are working with, I mean, the policy intervention, if I have to say, 20 people died also last year, more than 5,000 got infected. But this year, not a single case. That speaks about resilience within the city. And that also speaks about how, even with your local resources, you can intervene. And now we are moving a step ahead, which no city can boast of, to having a complete protocol of water, right from the water being lifted to your tap, so that we can get rid of these bottles. We don't have bottles in Shimla. When you come, you just drink the tap water, and we'll stand as a surety and guarantee. And this will also end the monopoly of the so-called water purifying companies and all that stuff. That will be the last challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The one question about the lightning, I think Dr. Mukhopadhyay is here. So I would suggest that during tea time, you can have a discussion. It's a very important issue which you have raised, and there are actually a lot of science issues still to resolve. So we can have a discussion during the tea time. I would like to thank all the speakers for very good demonstration of the work which has been done and which aroused a lot of interest from the different state government. I would also like to thank Dr. Bhandari for making his initial remark and raising certain important issues, and all of you for participating in this debate. So thank you very much. I declare this session as closed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nair. I request Dr. Anil Gupta from NIDM to present mementos to the dignitaries on the dais. Dr. Shailendra Naik. Shri P.K. Bhandari. Shri Arumar Revi. Dr. Anand. Dr. D.D. Sharma. Shri Tikender Singh. Thank you so much, all the dignitaries on the dais. And I request you all to kindly join us for a cup of tea. We shall resume the next session, that is technical session 2, after 15 minutes from now. 4:30 बजे हम आपका यहीं पर इंतज़ार करेंगे. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. See you at 4:30. Thank you.